Hello, friends. Welcome to April 2026. We're on the other side of Mercury retrograde, of eclipse season. So that's some good news. But April is going to bring us some more speedy events and some intensity as well. So, this far, 2026 has largely been a mixture of disorienting and quickening, as well as stagnant heaviness. So, this really confusing mixture of things feeling as though they're moving too quickly, but also feeling as though we're kind of stuck in this moment of not being able to quite get to where we're going. And that can be on a variation of different timelines. And you may be wondering when things will return to quote unquote normal. And the truth is that we won't be. And I know you've heard me say this before in different forms and fashions, but life as we knew it, really pre 2020, and we kept thinking we were going to get back to some sort of normalcy, and we're really seeing that that's not going to happen. Life as we knew it was ready for some deep reorientation. And we are essentially in the liminal space between then and what comes next. There will be moments for rest and reprieve this year. We haven't seen too much of that so far, but we will get there. June has some moments, but April's not one of those times either. April is going to speed things up and advance themes that we are already familiar with and likely throw in some new curveballs. As we continue to navigate this threshold between the past and the future, I really invite you to stay in your body, like completely in your body as much as you can and as much as feels safe. Our bodies are much more intelligent and informative than we tend to give them credit. I'm a long term yogi. I've been in the yoga room consistently for over 20 years. And one of the most important things I've learned in my practice is how to stay embodied. And it's really an important and valuable tool that I've accumulated through that. And I'm sure most people who have a physical practice of some sort have learned that in their own way as well. So often, we lean too heavily on the mind. We let our intellect direct us. But when we're able to stay in our amazing body and listen to its insight, we're never misled. The mind can spiral off, but the body, it knows. And at a time when things are moving incredibly quickly and feel increasingly destabilized, we really need good grounding. And we can only ground when we are solidly in our body, when we're with the breath, and when we're with the energetic pulsation of our life force, our blood racing through our veins, our heart pumping, and that inner knowing that we get at the core, our solar plexus as well. And when we get into our head, we need to remember to find the movement. When we start spiraling, we need to remember to come back to the body, whether that's through walk or dance or jumping around or crawling around or whatever it is that will help you to stay tuned in to this human vehicle that we are moving through this journey of life with. By the end of March, all planets began their forward motion and they're ready for action as we step into April. Expect the areas of your life that have felt heavy and contemplative to find some solid reorientation and even some movement forward. Globally, we can expect more divisive events and likely an acceleration to the conflict that we are already familiar with. So, the middle of the month really promises to be quite intense. So, be sure to take good care of yourselves. And that's really basically from the second week of April through to the end, essentially. There's a lot of really intense and grinding transits that we're going to be experiencing. And Also, with so many planets in the sign of action oriented Aries this month, take advantage of the opportunity to step more boldly into your life because there's excitement and fun involved in this as well. And new exciting beginnings are bountiful. They're just waiting for us to see them and to take a chance with them. Aries reminds us that while the leap into the future may be currently unformed, it is leaps such as these that gives life meaning. So, the first astrological event that we're looking at takes place on the 1st of April. Happy April Fool's Day, the Libra full moon, which perfects at 10:11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time and is situated at 12 degrees 21 minutes. So take a look at your charts, see what you have around 12 degrees of the cardinal signs, which are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. This full moon is Venus ruled and could bring up topics of relationships, social niceties, and also women, and bringing these topics to the forefront of our minds. While Venus in this chart is really nicely, sweetly placed in Taurus, it's also in an applying square to Pluto, which adds some friction to this full moon and indicates that there's a deeper story, potentially hidden secret surrounding connections, beauty, and women in general. There is the potential for secret revelations to come to the surface and for expectations of social balance to be disrupted, figuring out what is too much and also where am I not pushing myself enough. And that fine balance between putting ourselves out there in a way that makes people really uncomfortable and might not be that useful, but also on the other extreme, maybe not doing anything and being too much of a wallflower because you don't want to rock the boat. There's a fine medium between that. And we might be working through what are the pains, the shame, or the difficulties that we harbor within ourselves that could prevent us from standing in that middle ground, which is really Libra. Libra likes that middle ground and may tend to be more on the passive wallflower side, where Aries, so strong on the other side of the chart, is encouraging us to maybe be a little bit more bold, but also not wanting to step into that obnoxious side where Aries can sometimes roam, which is this polar navigation that we have between Libra and Aries. There's the potential for secret revelations to come to the surface and for expectations of social balance to be disrupted. We could be learning how to navigate the new rules of engagement in a society that is increasingly more complicated and where the rug's kind of been pulled out from underneath us and we're saying, okay, where are we at now? So, personally, expect to continue similar themes of rapid change, potentially illuminating the incredible challenge of maintaining balance at this time, which I spoke to. Balance does not look the way that it once did. And this applies to all areas of life, such as energetic balance, life work balance, relationship balance, emotional balance, social balance, financial balance. Where is it hitting you? Where is this full moon hitting your chart? Where is the Libra Aries axis in your charts? We lean more heavily on the archetype of Libra when things become most chaotic, which we really are in a time of chaos and upheaval right now. And with so many planets in Aries throughout most of this month, chaos can be stirred up with boldly stepping into a new life path, standing up for something you believe in, etc. And this full moon is saying, okay, I see the purpose in that, but how are we going to tend to everybody in this situation? How are we not going to step on everyone's toes? And how are we going to come out on the other side being able to pull that cohesion back together? So, on the world stage, we could find areas of our life becoming topsy turvy due to acts of war, which we already know is happening, emboldened egos, and other forms of aggressive agendas. So, one of the main things that we have going on this month is we have both Mars, most importantly, and also Mercury sweeping through the sign of Aries and conjuncting with Saturn and Neptune. And although we had the Saturn Neptune conjunction perfect in February, they're still quite close. They're between like 3 to 5 degrees this month. So they're quite close. And with the parade of planets moving through Aries, they're pinging this influence and reminding us that there's still this disintegration happening on the larger stage. The sun kicked this off at the end of March as it swept past Saturn and Neptune. And beginning about April 9th, we should begin to feel the intensity grow. April 9th is the day that Mars enters the sign of Aries, and then it will conjoin with Neptune on April 12th at 2 degrees Aries, 39 minutes. And then will conjoin with Saturn on April 19th, so a week later, at 7 degrees Aries, 51 minutes. Mars often acts as a trigger in astrology, and it's going to activate the Saturn Neptune topics such as disintegration of tradition, dissolving boundaries, and just stirring up overall confusion. Mars sometimes just makes things more activated. Military attacks resulting in notable loss could occur at this time, as well as a spread of the conflict into additional regions. Neptune indicating that the boundaries being penetrated into and they're not holding, essentially. We could also witness continued conflict and reconfiguration of leadership. It is possible that you could overwork yourself in April on a personal level. I think a lot of people are feeling pretty worn out at this moment, anyways, just emotional overwhelm. And we may find with Mars and Saturn coming together as well that we're working to accomplish goals that wear you down and lead to disappointment, which is the Neptune influence. If you find yourself failing to make things happen, if you feel like you're working really hard towards no end in sight at the moment, then step back, take a breath, and be patient and curious. This is going to be something that's really active for most of this month. And so there's an insight to it. And maybe if you have the luxury of time, you can return back to what you were working on in a couple of weeks and see if there's a new picture emerging. We could be grappling with more nuanced AI technology this month, distorting our perception of reality, or that same technology is opening doors for us that were previously unfathomable. We will continue to deepen into the Saturn Neptune distortion field through much of the year as planets continue to dance with them. But this month in particular promises to push us into a new world on various levels, allow the new dream to enter and continue to release the scaffolding for which is expired, allowing this new dream to manifest, essentially. So look at your chart and see what you have at the early degrees, 0 to 10 degrees of cardinal signs, which are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. If you have placements there, then you could be most impacted by the potential exhaustion, combative conversations, that sort of thing. And then on April 17th, we have the Aries new moon. It perfects at 7:51 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And with 8 of the 12 planets and points in Aries at this moment, this promises to be a time of accelerated activities, brave first acts, as well as the potential for aggression. Aries is the beginning of the zodiac and has the audacity to push its way towards new life. Aries is motivated by the promise of life and the promise of new beginnings. If you have been feeling a lull, a heaviness within your life for the past couple of months, as I spoke to before, then this new moon could really usher in some fresh vigor. Much of the heaviness that we have been experiencing has been due to Saturn and Neptune, and they are still operative, being only about 5 degrees apart. However, Mars and Mercury are in between them, allowing us to bravely give word to emotions. In the US chart, the fiery, assertive Aries action is mostly hidden in the 12th house. And the chart highlights revolutionary action as well as powerful leadership in government. It is possible that we could see a rise in protests and overall civil unrest. On a personal level, allow for the fresh ideas to rush in. Be careful of heated arguments, moments where you needlessly put your foot in your mouth. The heated debates that occur could be rooted in fear, so really check yourself. Ask yourself, can you locate the vulnerability and the common thread in the situation between yourself and the other? And leaning into the Libra archetype of there's not just one of us here with an opinion, there's two of us here with an opinion. So many of us are in the midst of destabilization on more levels than we can likely perceive. And we could be feeling at our wits' end by mid April and really needing some relief. More proactive means of releasing the pent up pressure within us could be through moving your body, as I mentioned before. You could scream. Breathing is very helpful. Just let that shit out. We're all going through it. There's no shame in this. You're exactly where you need to be. And finally, but certainly not least, on April 25th, Uranus is making its decisive entrance into Gemini. And this is a very exciting ingress. I have to say, I feel pretty excited about what this transit's going to bring into our lives, at least on a personal level, globally, a little bit more skeptical. But Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018, wreaking havoc on the financial system, as well as our resources in general, financially through the cryptocurrencies supply chains we really saw disrupted with COVID, as well as food distribution in general. And we saw the egg shortage as one example of that. So, Taurus is Venus ruled, indicating women. And during this time, we also saw Roe v. Wade overturned, causing a lot of chaos in the realm of women's rights. Uranus targets resources as well as areas of our life that make us feel comfortable and secure. And the years since 2018 have certainly forced us out of our comfort zone in more ways than we really could have anticipated. And we're still reeling from that. And as I mentioned in a previous newsletter, Uranus and Gemini are both quite similar in nature. They are both youthful, quick witted, and curious, almost to a fault. And we can expect technology and transportation specifically to change considerably between now and 2033, which will be when Uranus will leave Gemini. So it's there for about 7 years. And we'll also see this progression happen with its nearly 3 year trine with Pluto in Aquarius that will begin this summer. And that's going to just put the pedal to the metal on acceleration with technology and so many other areas of our life. So stay tuned for that. We're already seeing it happen. Uranus into Gemini signals that the forward motion of 2026 can really begin. And we felt this acceleration last year when Uranus dipped its toes into Gemini from July to November. But now we really get to do it for real. There's no turning back from the future. There are certainly challenges to Uranus being in Gemini, especially for the United States, as I mentioned a little bit ago. So, the foundation chart for the United States, its Uranus is in Gemini and it's angular, which gives it more power. And it tends to trigger conflict in the United States. And we saw this every time, every 84 years when Uranus has come back around. First, we had the Revolutionary War, which set up the United States in the first place, where we became free and liberated, which is Uranus from Britain. And then we had the Civil War 84 years after that. And that completely reconfigure who we are as a union, making sure that everybody's free. Again, Uranus liberating the people who were held as slaves. And then we had World War II. That really pushed us forward as being a world leader on the world stage and also really accelerated our technological development. As one would have guessed, we find ourselves again in a war as we head into Uranus in Gemini again. And we'll see if we can actually make it out sooner than later or if it will become increasingly more complicated and last longer than anybody would have anticipated. So, on the bright side, the US always comes out of this placement as a stronger nation and always with a greater sense of national pride, freedom, and self understanding. And while humanity's path to growth is not usually easy and can often get quite messy, just think of your own lives. I have faith that the goodness of humans will ultimately prevail. So hang in there. In closing, April will continue to simultaneously break down and break through. The timeline is quickening. It's opening doors that we previously could not conceive of. And that's largely Uranus and Gemini. That's just going to push open doors and perceptions that we couldn't have seen before. And first, we needed to get out of our comfort zone, which is what Uranus and Taurus did. And now we're going to be like, oh, there's so many ways to do this. And we don't have to stay stuck in one perspective. We can hold several conflicting things at one time and come up with a whole new idea. And that's one of the gifts of Uranus in Gemini. So, as the world changes on more levels than we can perceive, stay in your beautiful human body. Move your body to prevent energetic buildups and use practices such as grounding, body scanning, and yoga nidra to relax and communicate with what your body, with what your higher self is telling you. Breath work is another wonderful tool, always and especially now. Simple techniques such as box breathing can calm your nervous system as you move through your day. And it's always useful to visualize yourself surrounded by a bubble of love and light. I know this might sound cheesy, but it's a really central practice of mine. And expand that bubble of protection outwards as far as you can. You are meant to take up space in this lifetime. April is where the year begins to invite in immense innovation and the pace of events really picks up. Tap into your curiosity, be open to the world being more magical than what you could have possibly imagined, and take care of yourself inside and out. But most importantly, have some fun. There's a lot of fun and innovation and excitement available to us, even as some things don't look the way we might necessarily want them to. So relax a little bit, ease into where we're at, and remember that you're exactly where you need to be. Lots of love to all of you. I'll see you next month. Take care. Bye, everybody.